What happens when someone tries to escape their past, only to find it waiting for them in the most unexpected place? Bill Gates, a name synonymous with innovation and philanthropy, boarded the luxurious innovator's Odyssey to find solace after years of public scrutiny. The ship, a marvel of modern technology, sailed through calm waters, promising an escape from the relentless demands of his legacy. The vessel wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was a floating sanctuary equipped with state-of-the-art amenities. From AI-powered personal assistants to grand ballrooms with panoramic ocean views, the innovator's Odyssey epitomized luxury. The ship offered more than opulence, it was a community of like-minded visionaries. Entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and innovators filled the guest list, creating an atmosphere ripe for intellectual exchange. Bill, however, wasn't there to network. For him, this voyage was about introspection, a chance to step back from his relentless life. As he walked the ship's expansive decks, he reflected on his journey, from a college dropout with an ambitious dream to one of the most influential figures in the world. The accolades, criticism, and choices that shaped his legacy weighed heavily on his mind. Bill's thoughts wandered to the dichotomy of his life. On one hand, he had revolutionized the world with groundbreaking technology, on the other, he bore the guilt of unintended consequences. His innovations had reshaped economies and lives, but at what cost? As the ship departed the bustling harbor, the distant city skyline faded, replaced by the endless blue horizon. The rhythmic lapping of waves mirrored his own heartbeat, steady yet heavy with anticipation. Little did he know, this serene voyage would soon unravel into a labyrinth of old grudges, unexpected alliances, and personal reckonings. As Bill adjusted to the rhythm of the cruise, the evening gala marked the first major social event. Guests mingled in their finest attire, and the atmosphere buzzed with admiration for the tech icon. The ship's ballroom, adorned with cascading chandeliers and elegant decor, was a masterpiece in itself. Amid the laughter and clinking glasses, one figure stood out, Victor Crane. A man of sharp features and piercing eyes, Victor carried an air of quiet confidence tinged with something darker, resentment. Victor approached Bill during the gala, a glass of champagne in hand. "Mr. Gates," he said with a cordial smile, "it's an honor to finally meet you. Your work has undeniably shaped the world." His words, though polite, carried an undertone that set Bill on edge. Bill, ever gracious, returned the sentiment, but there was something in Victor's gaze that hinted at more than admiration. Over the course of the evening, their conversation deepened. Victor's remarks began to reveal a long-held grudge. Years ago, a pivotal decision by Microsoft had left Victor's burgeoning startup in ruins. Victor had spent years rebuilding, but the scars remained. For him, this encounter wasn't just a chance meeting, it was a moment he'd been waiting for, an opportunity to confront the man he held responsible for his struggles. "It's fascinating," Victor mused, "how a single choice can ripple out and affect so many lives." His words hung in the air, their implications clear. As Bill listened, he felt a mix of guilt and defensiveness. He had made countless decisions throughout his career, some difficult and controversial. While he understood Victor's pain, he couldn't ignore the feeling that this encounter was more than coincidental. The tension between the two men didn't go unnoticed. Guests exchanged glances, sensing the undercurrent of unease. Bill's calm demeanor masked his growing discomfort, but the encounter lingered in his mind long after the gala ended. He began to wonder if Victor's presence on the ship was truly a coincidence, or something more deliberate. As the days unfolded, Victor's presence became impossible to ignore. He seemed to appear at every turn, on the deck during sunrise yoga sessions, at the ship's exclusive networking panels, and even in casual conversations over meals. While outwardly polite, his comments carried an edge that kept Bill on guard. One morning, Bill found Victor seated at his breakfast table uninvited. "Have you ever thought about the cost of innovation, Mr. Gates? How many people had to pay the price for one man's vision?" Victor's tone was calm, but his words were cutting. Bill deflected, steering the conversation back to safer topics, but Victor's persistence was unsettling. Meanwhile, Bill sought solace in moments of genuine connection. He developed a rapport with Elena, a young tech prodigy whose startup focused on sustainable energy solutions. Her admiration for Bill's achievements reminded him of the positive impact he'd made. They spent hours discussing their shared vision for a better future. Elena's youthful optimism was a stark contrast to Victor's cynical demeanor, offering Bill a brief reprieve from the mounting tension. However, Victor's intentions became increasingly clear. Cryptic notes began appearing under Bill's suite door, referencing controversial moments from his career. Each note was a reminder that Victor had done his homework and was determined to challenge Bill. The psychological toll began to weigh heavily on Bill, who found himself questioning not only his legacy but also the true cost of his success. He wondered if the ideals he'd championed had inadvertently created enemies, leaving a trail of discontent in his wake. The charity auction was the cruise's centerpiece event. The ballroom was transformed into a dazzling display of wealth and influence, with rare artifacts, cutting-edge technology, and exclusive experiences up for bid. Bill was set to deliver a keynote speech, announcing a significant donation to global education initiatives. The room buzzed with anticipation as guests eagerly awaited his words. Just as Bill approached the podium, Victor stood up from the crowd, holding a stack of documents. "Before you make another grand gesture, Mr. Gates, perhaps we should discuss the true cost of your empire," he declared, his voice cutting through the room like a knife. Guests froze, their attention shifting from Bill to Victor. Victor's accusations were scathing. He claimed that Microsoft's aggressive business tactics had crushed countless competitors, leaving dreams shattered in its wake. "Your success," he said, "came at the expense of others' livelihoods. Isn't it time you acknowledged that?" His words ignited a murmur among the crowd, their admiration for Bill tainted by doubt. Bill's initial shock gave way to a measured response. He acknowledged the complexities of innovation and its unintended consequences but emphasized his commitment to using his resources for the greater good. Elena stepped in, passionately defending Bill's legacy. "We're here because of the future," she said, her voice steady. "Let's not lose sight of what's possible." Despite her efforts, the damage was done. The room's atmosphere had shifted, and Bill's reputation hung in the balance. As the innovator's odyssey neared its final port, Bill retreated to the solitude of his suite. The events of the auction replayed in his mind, each moment etched with doubt and frustration. The documents Victor had presented were a mix of truths, half-truths, and outright fabrications. Bill knew he had to address them, not just for his reputation but for his own peace of mind. In the quiet of his room, Bill began crafting a plan. He resolved to confront the past head-on, initiating an independent review of his business practices. "If I'm going to be judged," he thought, "let it be for the full truth." Meanwhile, Victor, satisfied with the chaos he'd caused, disappeared into the crowd as the ship docked. His parting words to Bill were chilling: "This isn't over, Gates. The world deserves to know everything." As Bill stepped off the ship, the weight of the journey lingered heavily on his shoulders, like the echoes of a storm that had yet to fully pass. Each step felt deliberate, each breath a reminder of the odyssey that had reshaped not just his perspective but the very essence of his identity. The innovator's odyssey had been more than a physical voyage, it was a relentless exploration into the hidden recesses of his conscience, a place he rarely allowed himself to dwell. Bill's mind replayed the encounters that had tested his resolve, Victor's accusations, Elena's unwavering faith, and the faces of strangers who now saw him through a lens tinged with doubt. He realized that while the world often saw him as a titan of progress, he was, at his core, a man grappling with the same vulnerabilities as anyone else. The ship's horn bellowed one final time, its sound reverberating like a call to action. He stood at the gangway, staring at the bustling port ahead, a microcosm of the very world he had sought to influence. His steps faltered for a moment, as if the weight of Victor's parting words anchored him to the spot. This isn't over, Gates. The world deserves to know everything. The words weren't just a warning, they were a challenge. Bill's resolve hardened, his mind already mapping out a course of action. He wasn't running from his past anymore. If anything, the journey had taught him that the only way to truly move forward was to confront it, not with defensiveness, but with transparency and integrity. As he walked toward the car waiting to take him back to a world of boardrooms and headlines, Bill felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. The innovator's odyssey had been a crucible, burning away the superficial layers of his life and leaving behind a core of renewed purpose. The battles ahead were inevitable, but for the first time in years, Bill welcomed them. He was ready to redefine his legacy, not just as a pioneer of technology but as a man unafraid to face the truth and use it to build a future worth believing in.